To Business Lunch, I'm Nisha Podar, and with me as always is my co-anchor Pavitra Parekh. So Pavitra, let's begin with the markets. And yes, now a shade of green in the markets after a huge amount of volatility. But I must note and make one point in Nifty 50 that the market 17,700 that has been achieved high point of the day and also above the opening price for Nifty 50. See the kind of volatility that we have seen, a V-shaped recovery at lunch hour. So probably a trend changing time at lunch hour that we have seen on many sessions. As far as Sensex is concerned, 117 points gain at the moment. Bank Nifty is also showing slight outperformance to the key indices, 0.32% up in trade at the moment. And mid caps, remember, opened better than the key indices today and continued with the momentum with over 0.5% gain at the moment. And therefore, the market breadth also looks much stronger because of the mid caps doing much better as well. As far as some of the counters which are really looking very resilient in a tentative market, Bharti Airtel pops up on my screen as a big supporter today, and Reliance Industries has had its ups and lows, because of which Nifty has also seen its tumultuous movement today, but at the moment closer to 1% gain. Pavitra.
Hi. So like you said, quite a recovery playing out. But if you really look at the Nifty pack, there are perhaps 4 stocks which are seeing gains of over 1%. So there's no real big move coming through in the main index. If you take a look at the mid caps, that's where the action really is. So tire companies doing well, sugar stocks doing well, and you'll see the kind of gains coming through. So let's pull a few of those up. The likes of Apollo, JK will all come up for you, and those ones are clocking in good gains. There's also a note on that, a brokerage note, as well as, of course, what's happening with rubber prices. Then you have all of the sugar stocks. So something like a Sakti Sugars is surging in trade. It's up on your screen, almost 19% higher there. And then on the downside, you have a bunch of the consumer names. Those ones will come up for you. And a lot of the auto stocks have actually slipped from the top, and they're trading at the day's low right now. So something like a Bajaj, M&M are also seeing some pressure. But that's what's happening with the market action. We'll come back to this in a bit, but let's quickly bring you our top story, which is on the global focus. The European Union energy ministers are due to meet on the 9th of September, while a potential cap on gas prices is likely to be discussed. In the meanwhile, Germany and France are working out an arrangement to provide each other with gas as well as electricity. So CNBC's Steve Sedgwick and Karen So filed this report.
Brussels is recommending an EU-wide cap on gas prices. According to a document seen by the Financial Times, the emergency proposals come ahead of an extraordinary meeting of energy officials this week, and as EU officials accuse the Kremlin of weaponizing energy. France, meanwhile, is ready to send gas to Germany if needed, in exchange for electricity going the other way. Details for the quid pro quo arrangement will be fleshed out in the coming weeks, according to the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, who said that France would require additional help from its neighbours because of technical issues with its nuclear power plants. The French President Emmanuel Macron hailed the agreement as a show of European solidarity, as he called for a 10% reduction in the country's energy use in coming weeks.
Germany needs our gas, and we need the electricity produced in the rest of Europe, and in particular from Germany. Why? This has nothing to do with the conflict in Russia, but it is linked to a short-term phenomenon where today the nuclear power plants in France are faced with technical challenges that have led the supervisor and the Nuclear Safety Authority to request EDF to perform maintenance on them. So we have more nuclear power plants which are under maintenance than expected. It adds to the problem I talked about earlier, so therefore we produce less electricity in France than expected, and this is why we need European solidarity.
Meanwhile, Germany is temporarily delaying the phasing out of nuclear energy. The country's 2 remaining working nuclear power plants, which were due to shut down this year, will be kept staffed and operational, ready to produce electricity as emergency backup until at least the middle of next year. Germany's Economy and Energy Minister Robert Habeck explained the rationale behind the policy shift.
Dass wir uns diese Option erhalten.
We should preserve this option after the end of the regular operating life of the nuclear power plants to transfer the 2 southern German nuclear power plants to a reserve so that they can be used again or can continue to be used if the situation dictates. We won't get rid of this option. That's a decision to be weighed up because, I said before, it's a high-risk technology that should end operations at the end of the year. But this is both a defensible and necessary decision.
All right, so that was a detailed report on the energy crisis playing out in European Union. and remember that some measures need to be taken immediately before we see winter coming. Now, on the same topic, Petroleum Minister Hardeep Singh Puri says that India will carefully assess the G7's proposal to impose a cap on the prices of Russian oil. And speaking to CNBC's Hadley Gamble on the sidelines of the Gastech 2022 summit in Milan, he also said that India would continue buying oil from Russia and any decision will only be taken on the basis of national interests. Let's listen into an excerpt of that interesting conversation.
Conversations going on due to a large number of factors. There is a shortage of supply. The demand is higher than the supply. OPEC has today taken a decision to circumscribe its own production by 100,000 barrels. There's a talk on the price cap. There are a lot of things. You know, we, apart from being a population of 1.4 billion, we consume 5 million barrels of oil in a day. We have 60 million people going to a petrol bunk every day to fill up. And throughout this difficult period, and by difficult period, I don't mean just the pandemic. Pandemic in and of itself was difficult. Yeah. I mean, the price of oil went down, as far as I can remember, to $19 a barrel. Then it went up to 120 plus. Then you had the, Russian-Ukraine factor. Now, the world is adjusting to all that. Now, what will a proposal mean? We will look at it very carefully. Who will be the participants? What will be the implications, etc. Today, our 5 million barrels of oil, where does it come from? Well, it comes largely from Saudi Arabia, from Abu Dhabi, from Kuwait. Iraq is actually our largest supplier.
Yeah.
And so we have 5 million barrels, each one of them a little less than 1 million barrels, about 864,000. Russia accounted, if memory serves me right, towards the end of the financial year, which ended 31 March 2022, 0.2%, that's all we had. Then when the thing started, so somebody said, India is buying a lot of oil from Russia. I said, the Europeans buy more in one afternoon than I do in a quarter. I'd be surprised if that is not the condition still. But yes, we will buy from Russia. We'll buy from wherever.
Yeah.
A democratically elected government.
And you don't have a moral conflict with the Russians at all?
No, it's a question of no conflict. I have a moral duty to my consumer. Do I, as a democratically elected government, want a situation where the petrol bunk runs dry? Look at what's happening in countries around India.
But they did invade a democratically elected country.
I'm not getting into that debate.
Yeah.
It's a question of energy. Energy, as far as I know, is not sanctioned. Okay? Energy, there is a encouragement, but there are so many other factors. Also, we balance it. We buy 4 million from here. If we buy, I don't know how much we are buying from Russia. So we are realistic. And by the way, those who wanted to do that ideological punitive action, they're still buying.
Yeah.
And they're going to be buying for a while.
All right, that was Hardeep Singh Puri being absolutely straight up and saying that we are going to go after what is best in our national interest, and that is the approach we will take in order to acquire natural gas and crude oil. But with that, we're going to get into a short break now. On the other side, we focus on some potential developments that could be coming through in the insurance sector. So all of the exclusive details with Yash when we come back. Hey guys, welcome back. You're still watching Business Lunch, and let's bring you an exclusive now. Sources are telling us that the insurance regulator, that is the IRDAI, is set to meet the CEOs of insurance companies today to discuss the mandatory dematerialization of insurance policies. Yash is here with all of the details on this one. Yash, what are you picking up?
Well, Pavitra, just today we had the news coming that India has crossed the 10 crore mark when it comes to total demat accounts in the country. And this move, which the IRDA is taking forward, is expected to take that number much higher at a much faster pace, also brings synergy in the existing demat accounts. What we've been given to understand from our sources is that the insurance regulator is meeting insurance CEOs, both life and general insurance companies. The most important point on the agenda is to discuss how to make dematerialization of insurance policy mandatory. Now, what that means is that whenever a new policy is issued, be it any sort of life insurance policy or on the non-life side, it will be issued in a dematerial format, which is essentially digital, and that whole process, like the policy document and details, will be taken on a platform itself. Once that is done, like a demat platform is what I mean. Once that is done, then the existing policies in the country, they will also start getting converted on in a demat format on a demat platform. What we've been given to understand is that once this particular proposal goes through, then of course talks will start with depositories like NSDL, CDSL as well as Carvi in terms of using their platforms to put these insurance policies on those demat platforms. But no doubt that it's a significant move when it comes to dematerialization of policies, a major move towards financial inclusion, which will also sort of help. One outcome of it is that helping people take loan against these policies, just like it happens with shares. So of course an important move from that particular perspective.
Yes, Yash, thanks so much for getting us all those important details and some game-changing moves in the insurance sector. On that note, we'll slip into a short breather on Business Lunch. But on the other side, remember, Boris Johnson bids farewell to 10 Downing Street with Liz Truss set to take over as the British Prime Minister. Details on the other side. Welcome back. You're watching Business Lunch, and a quick look at the markets. And Nifty 50 is losing some sheen in terms of the recovery that it had shown. Now only 24 points gain at the moment, and has lost that 17,700 mark as well. And the financials are really leading the charge in terms of the kind of weakness that we are seeing at the moment. So keep an eye out on the markets, and also Bajaj twins, which have been really losing ground. All right, on to an important development then, an exclusive story we have today. LIC is likely to offer 60% stake for sale in IDBI Bank's divestment, and expression of interests are likely to be invited sometime in the month of September or October. Sapna Das gets us all the important details on the phone line. Tell us, Sapna.
Hi, so this is an important update to what we have been reporting on this matter since July. So given to understand that, earlier on we had said in July that government and LIC both together could be looking at offloading around 65% in the IDBI Bank disinvestment. Given to understand that probably that number would be closer to around the 60% mark as of now. And it may just be possible that the EOIs could actually be invited by the government sometime October, though also the September deadline is still very much in mind. That's still at play. But in case, the due diligence takes some more time, then, October could be the safe outer timeline in terms of government inviting the EOI. So that's number second. Number three, we're also able to understand that don't think that there are any showstoppers, quote unquote, from RBI per se as far as the IDBI Bank stake sale is concerned. Processes are taking their own due time. Hence, there is some shifting of timelines as far as the EOIs are concerned. But there is no showstopper from RBI. And even in terms of the promoter shareholding, how much will have to come in, by the potential bidders or the parties that actually buy the stake, no bar on that. It can be 40-odd%, it can be 50-odd% that they come in, except that as per the regulatory norms of Reserve Bank of India, they'll have to bring down the stake to the concerned levels in 15-year time, in a 15-year period. That's one. Second, also, no change in terms of the voting rights cap. So that stays at 26%, because no exceptions can be made for, one case probably. So as of now, no showstopper from the Reserve Bank of India. I think government has neatly stitched this up. We just have to wait, maybe if not this month, then by October, the EOI should be out for IDBI Bank.
All right, by October, the EOIs should be out. Sapna, thanks a lot for joining us and taking us through all of those details that you're picking up. With that, we're going to move on and talk about the big global political story. The United Kingdom is all set to have a new Prime Minister. Liz Truss will succeed Boris Johnson at 10 Downing Street after she won 57% of the Conservative Party's votes. Outgoing Prime Minister Boris Johnson, in his final speech, says that he will offer the new government the most fervent support and will support Liz Truss every step of the way. Listen in.
Because of the speed and urgency of what you did, everybody involved in this government, to get this economy moving again from July last year, in spite of all the opposition, all the naysayers, we have and will continue to have that economic strength to give people the cash they need to get through this energy crisis that has been caused by Putin's vicious war. And I know that Liz Truss and this compassionate Conservative government will do everything we can to get people through this crisis, and this country will endure it, and we will win. And if Putin thinks that he can succeed by blackmailing or bullying the British people, then he is utterly deluded. On the subject of bouncing around in future careers, let me say that I am now like one of those booster rockets that has fulfilled its function, and I will now be gently re-entering the atmosphere and splashing down invisibly in some remote and obscure corner of the Pacific. And like Cincinnatus, I am returning to my plough, and I will be offering this government nothing but the most fervent support. It's time for politics to be over, folks. It's time for us all to get behind Liz Truss and her team and her programme and deliver for the people of this country. Because that is what the people of this country want, that's what they need, and that's what they deserve.
Final words coming from Boris Johnson. Quite an eventful tenure he had as the UK's Prime Minister. Well, let's get you some updates on Bengaluru floods. Yes, rains continue to wreak havoc in the city of Bengaluru, and several regions have complained of waterlogging at their places. Now, many IT professionals in this city, known as India's Silicon Valley, resorted to taking tractor rides to reach their workplaces. Ritu joins us straight from Bengaluru with all the details.
Miserable scene here in Yamluru. You can see the complete road is flooded. Vehicles too are here submerged. The water has in fact entered the houses. People are all stuck inside the houses. It's almost been 2 days. They haven't reached, no food packets have reached them. No water bottles been supplied to them. It is today that the civic body has woke up after there's so many calls that were been made from the locals to BBMP. Today they are getting food packets and the water bottles too. But most of them had to step back inside the house only because of this kind of a situation right now in the IT city Bengaluru. You see the ground floors of all the houses here are flooded. Most of the residents have moved out to a different location. Most of them had tried finding shelter in some hotels. A few of them have tried finding shelters in their neighboring houses, in the hostels as well. So that's the situation in the Yamluru, where you see this is not for the first time that these residents are facing this issue. But we'll also try and speak to what these residents have to say about this kind of a situation. What's the negligence of the state government and the civic body as well? भैया, आपको क्यों लगता है कि एक किस लिए सिचुएशन इस तरीके से क्रिएट हुआ है बारिश के होने के बाद?
ये सिचुएशन इसलिए क्रिएट हुआ है क्योंकि यहाँ पे जो 70% लेक का एरिया है वो सब दिव्या श्री सुबह प्लेडियन और जो लैंड माफिया उन लोगों ने एक्वायर कर लिया है. जब उधर उन्होंने बिल्डिंग बना दिया है तो पानी वापस इधर की तरफ आ रहा है. यही रीजन है.
60 फीट. सर, आपको कौन लगता है इसका जिम्मेदार कौन है? क्या सरकार सही तरीके से कदम नहीं उठा रही है? सिविक बॉडी बीबीएमपी क्या कर रहा है जब लोग इस तरीके से?
सभी लोग बीबीएमपी वाला इज देयर, सरकार इज देयर, ऑल द पॉलिटिकल पीपल्स आर देयर. दे विल टेक द मनी एंड गिव द परमिशन फॉर ऑल द.
They need money. They only need money, not people. Because see, today Rajkalve was very big. Today it has become like very small, like a tanks. Today it has become like a tanks.
All right, tough situation there in Bengaluru. We have been bringing you visuals from the city where, they are facing intense waterlogging, and we'll keep bringing you updates on this through the day as well. But with that, we're completely out of time on this edition of Business Lunch. From the entire team, thank you very much for tuning in. Midcap Radar is up next.